Good morning, this is Faith at Faith&books. It's 8:02 on Sunday morning. It's very chilly out. I think it's about 19 degrees out. So I'm keeping my hat on because I'm cold. I can't seem to warm up. I just drove around for 10 minutes just to get the car warm. And I'm parked at this parking lot at a park near me. Anyway, I finished 2 books. Yesterday I finished Felix Holt by George Eliot, and I actually read it on my Kindle. This was my mother's copy from a long time ago, and I really loved it. I love George Eliot. I've read Silas Marner, Adam Bede, Middlemarch, Romola, I'm not sure how you say that, and now Felix Holt. And every time she's just great. She's just great. This one, I thought it had a little bit of a slow start, and it was a little bit disjointed in that, she really focuses on a particular character, and then all of a sudden you switch to another character, and you don't hear about the first character for pages and pages and pages, and I was wondering what's going on here. So I think it had a little bit of a slow start in that way for me, but her writing, just her sentence structure, her vocabulary, she just is such a brilliant writer that in spite of that I was still wanted to read. And it really builds, and I felt real tension like the second half of the book. It was just, I couldn't put the book down because I wanted to know what happened. Felix Holt, I guess, is the main character, but there's also another guy, Harry Transom, who's kind of a major character, and his mother is kind of a major character, and then there's a dissenting pastor, a preacher by the name of Rufus Lyon, and he's kind of a major character, and his daughter is Esther, and she's a major character. So there's a lot of, it's kind of arbitrary that she called it Felix Holt, although I guess he's the most main of the main characters. But there's a lot of people that are the story is told from different perspectives. So sometimes you get Felix's perspective, sometimes Esther's, sometimes the pastor Lyon, sometimes Harry Transom, sometimes his mother. So it switches, and then there's even the lawyer German is also, you also get it from his perspective. So you're switching around. Your point of view is moving around. Oh, and there's another guy, Christian. Yeah, so it's almost kind of arbitrary that she decided to call it Felix Holt, but I think Felix Holt, was the best person, maybe, and so maybe he's the one she wanted to highlight. But I thought it was a really intriguing story. I thought I'm still chewing over ideas in it, like why one guy. A lot of it is subtly feminist, but there are these 2 suitors, and one of them, it has a lot to do with superficial versus interior, and selfishness versus, noble ideas or wanting to work for noble causes, and how people are a mixture, and how even those who are selfish, you can still have sympathy for the bad consequences that they have to live with because of their selfish choices. So it's very complex. I love that she just really plumbs the depth of humanity, of the human nature, in the context of this little town and the political reforms that are going on at the time. So I really, really liked it, and I'm glad. I've decided that I'm going to read a George Eliot book every January because I really like her, and January is just a really good time to read, and I want to read something that's complicated and really pulls me in and really has me thinking. So yeah, I really like George Eliot, and I really liked Felix Holt. Now, I'm thinking 4 stars or like 4.5 stars, because I remember when I read Romola, that just struck me as completely brilliant, like just blew me away. So that I have 5 stars. I don't know if this is as good. This isn't as, in my opinion, it's not quite as good. It's 4.5 stars versus 5 stars, but still, deeply enjoyed this book. Really, really like it. Would reread it. I mean, it's just, I'm just really becoming a fan of George Eliot. And in fact, I don't usually want to learn about the lives of authors that much, usually. I'm picky about it because I don't want to be turned off by them. Sometimes you find out really sordid stuff about them and then you don't like them as much, or at least I don't. But I'd like to read about her. I think she was a really interesting person. And I might do a buddy read with Kate Howe, possibly, for the Mill on the Floss. I said Mill and the Floss, but Mill on the Floss in May. That's a possibility. So I might read George Eliot again later this year. Anyway, so that was that. And then just this morning, I finished, can I get this in? Xenophon's The Persian Expedition. That's how it's translated here. I listened to it on LibriVox, and it was called Anabasis, Anabasis, which is, and I keep saying this, it's the story of the Greek troops that get isolated behind enemy lines in Persia, and they have to march out of there. They have to fight to get out of there. And it's the story of how they did it, how they got out. It ends really abruptly. He just stops writing. So they haven't quite gotten home yet, but they're gonna get home. The thing that I find curious is I was trying to follow along. This is a different translation from the one I listened to on LibriVox. The LibriVox readers were all good. I enjoyed there were several, maybe 3 or 4 at most, maybe, and they were good. I thought they were all quite good. This translation is by Rutherford, and he leaves big chunks of stuff out. It's very simplified. I have a bone to pick with Penguin Classics because the other translation has far more vitality in the telling. I mean, you really feel like you're there, and I felt very, just like I was in the situation where these soldiers are desperately trying to, save their lives and get out of there, and all these enemies are attacking them, and they're just in this terrible plight. And Xenophon gives these great rousing speeches, and he has such a good response to all the problems, and it was such clarity. And there's a lot of like dialogue and speech making and stuff that's really rousing. And this is just drier, and he oversimplifies it. I mean, it is complicated, and I did get lost with all the names and stuff, somewhat. But this was, to me, I don't know, this was not the most inspired translation and telling of the story. I preferred the LibriVox version. But anyway, so I'm glad that I read this, and this was my first book in my Focus on the Ancients. So my next book for Focus on the Ancients is not actually an ancient book, but it's based on an ancient myth, and that is Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. That's based on the myth or the story of Cupid and Psyche, and it's a modern. Well, it even says a novel of Cupid and Psyche. And I've read this before. This will be a reread. When I read it, it just blew me away. I have mixed feelings about C.S. Lewis. Sometimes I click with him and sometimes I don't. This one just blew me away. And I've been wanting to reread it ever since. And so I'm finally going to do it. So that's the next book that I'm going to read in my focus on the ancients, which I'm defining very broadly because it can be a modern book, but that just has ancient themes to it. But I'm really looking forward to that. But I cannot get to this quite yet because, let me show you, I am reading 2 other books. I'm reading Dreams of Trespass, Tales of a Harem Girlhood by Fatima Mernissi. Let me see if I can open this so you can see. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you go. This is quite fascinating. I haven't been reading it quite as quickly as I thought I would. And I didn't even need to read it. This is sort of inspired by, it's definitely inspired by the Africa Cup of Nations football or soccer tournament going on right now. And in my group, I had Comoros, Ghana, Morocco, and then my country, Gabon, the one that I was selected to root for and read from. And I already read a book from Gabon, and then Gabon did way better than expected. So Gabon went on to the next round. Countries like Ghana, which was supposed to have a really good team, and Algeria won the 2019 Cup. They didn't qualify to go on, but Gabon did amazingly. But the way that Marcus at Book Time with Elvis has set up the rules is he picks a country for you just out of a hat, and then you're supposed to read something from that country. Then they play another team, and if that other team wins, then you have to read a book from that country. If your team wins, you don't have to read a book. And if there's a draw, there's a lot of draws in soccer, then you can choose. It depends on the time. And I just haven't had that much time. But they had a draw. They had a draw with Ghana, and I started to read that book, but I only got a couple of pages in. It just didn't click with me. And I felt like life was too chaotic at the time because my daughter had a baby. So I was watching my 2-year-old grandson. I was helping her, going over visiting and that sort of thing. So it was just chaotic, and I just didn't want to read another book unless I had to. So I dropped the one from Ghana, which I do want to read eventually. But just right now, it just wasn't feasible. But then a few days later, when they played Morocco, they also had a draw. But I really was interested in reading this memoir. And so I was more interested in this than reading another novel, frankly. So I started reading it. And it is fascinating. It is really fascinating. I'm going to wait and talk about that when I finally finish it. So put that aside. And then I finally got this book from the library. I had so much trouble. I put it on hold. It was really slow getting back to me. Then they closed the library because of the weather. And then when they should have reopened it, because everything else reopened, I went, and in that particular library, the heat had broken. And it took like 3 days to get it repaired, so the library was just closed. So I couldn't pick up my book, and then, I just wasn't going near there on other days. It had to be a special trip. And anyway, finally I got it. So, but I had so many other books on tap that I really couldn't get to it. So now I've just started to read it. Just last night I sat down and tried to read it, and I was so tired. I read 5 pages and then fell asleep. But anyway, I'm glad to read P.G. Wodehouse. So I'm going to just kind of sink into this and hopefully get it read in just a few days. So, and then we're still doing City of God. And by the end of this week, we should have finished book 3 of the first volume. And I'm excited because we're going to have our first Zoom discussion on Saturday. So that's really exciting. I've never been the person who does these Zoom discussions. So we'll see how it works out. But this is extremely interesting. I'm really, really enjoying it. And then the last thing is, last time I wanted to show you this and I forgot. But I've been reading The Trumpet of the Swan by E.B. White to the 6-year-old. This used to have a cover, but this book was given to me when I was 10. And at the same time, my grandmother, I can't remember who gave me the book, whether it was my grandmother or my aunt. I think it was my aunt who gave it to me. But my grandmother gave me these little plates to put in all my books. So this book is quite old, and I'm sorry that it lost its cover, but I'm reading it. I love these illustrations. I'm reading it to the 6-year-old. My husband is too, so a couple of times a week he reads it to him. So then I have to go back and skim the chapter. But it's such a good story. It really is. And this was his last children's book. So he wrote Stuart Little like in 1959. And Charlotte's Web, was it 59 or 54? And then Charlotte's Web was next. And then this was written in 1970. And I mean, Charlotte's Web is, I guess, the most beloved. But this is, I don't know why this didn't take off the way the other two did. It's just beautifully written. It's beautifully written. I'm so deeply enjoying it. It's just a trip down memory lane. I'm just so nostalgic over it. It's so clever. It's so well done. I just really... And the thing is, we've been having so much trouble trying to get the 6-year-old to listen to read-alouds. He's become extremely picky. And he only wants the same book, so we've been reading aloud for almost 2 years to him over and over again. But this one, he's thoroughly engaged by this. So really, really grateful to E.B. White, and I'm really enjoying this book as well. So I have to get my little book journal out here to say, yeah, so my plans for the future, yeah. Okay, so today at 11, Gabon, my team, is playing Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso? Yeah, Burkina Faso. And if Burkina Faso wins, I have to read a book from there. Well, it's really, really hard to get a book from Burkina Faso. It really is. But there's a children's book called Sophie and the Albino Camel, written by, I think the guy's name is Stephen Davies. And I could get the paperback, but I won't get it for a few days, and it'll be, by that time it'll be too late. But it is on audio. My husband has a credit, so I might listen to it on audio. That might be in my next audio book, if they win. If not, I'm going to forego that. If they have a draw or Gabon wins, I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to go right into listening to Agnes Grey, which is the book for the Victorian Read-Along Club, or what is it called? Read-Along Most Victorian Club. I think the name of the Voxer group keeps changing, but anyway, so now that would be a reread for me. I have read Agnes Grey before, not that long ago, maybe 5 years ago or something. And I think I'm just going to listen to that on LibriVox. That'll be my next audio, because now I'm done with Anabasis. So I need another audio to listen to. So either I'll do the kids' story, Sophie and the Albino Camel, and that's like a kids' chapter book. So hopefully that won't take very long. Or I'll skip that and I'll just go right into Agnes Grey, because I have to have it read by like the third week in February, maybe something. Yeah. So that's my next audio. My next Kindle, because I finished Felix Holt, and that was my Kindle read, I'm going to read Castle Rackrent by Maria Edgeworth. So, and that is part of, I can't pronounce the name of it, but it's Regensanuary. You read Regency novels in February. So, and I can't pronounce what they've dubbed that. But, so I think I'm going to just start that early. It's not February yet. We've got over a week. But I need something on my Kindle to read at night after I turn off the lights. Yeah. And then I'm going to focus on Dreams of Trespass, the memoir from Morocco, and Thank You, Jeeves. Yeah. So that's it. All right. And then I don't know who is, well, we'll find out whose team I have, and then I have to figure out what I'm going to read for the Africa Cup, but that's a few days away, so I'm not going to think about it right now. All right, I've talked long enough. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm so sorry. I forgot something really important. I'm at 300 subscribers, or 301. So thank you so much for subscribing. I meant to talk about this very first thing. So what I want to do to celebrate this, because I'm just a rinky-dink little channel and I don't do anything fancy or anything. I'm not, I'm not somebody who's going to ever be a big channel or anything like that, and I'm actually happy with that. But it is flattering, for your numbers to go up. I mean, it just is. So I'm just so grateful. Thank you very much. And I think in order to celebrate this milestone, I would love to know, everybody who sees this video and gets through it this far, 20 minutes in, please tell me what you're reading. I would love to know what everybody's reading currently, or what you just finished, or what you're just about to start, or what you're in the middle of, because that's always interesting to know what people are reading. So that's what I would like to do to commemorate my 301 subscribers. So whenever I talk about how many subscribers I have, the numbers fall. So, but that's okay. At least it got to 300, right? Even if it drops a few, that's okay. Anyway, I wish I had said this first. I might, when I type the notes up, emphasize this. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you're doing well, and happy reading. Bye.